Okay, so okay, so I'm a lady that lives in the city of Sydney, in the inner west part of Sydney, which is like many suburbs. The bus depot is like a military base, which is just on my corner, and from that springs an entire military operation against anyone that isn't part of this military controlled area, which is essentially the whole inner west, and everyone, almost without exception, in that suburb. There probably are a few exceptions, but of course I'm not given privy to that. As you can imagine, the whole purpose of this military operation is to separate real life from real life, because everything is connected, because we live in a matrix. But we live in a matrix, and and the matrix is everything. The matrix is controlled by everything in the earth. It's very hard to explain, but it's essentially everything, or most beings. And the reason for this is because these beings, which are like essentially like Lucifer's legions, because I have to take it from a religious standpoint, because that's the only way that it makes any sense. So it has to be taken from a spiritual or a religious standpoint, which, if this is so, then it's really just taking it from the truth. And the truth is, as we know, the real facts. That's simply it. So, so if anyone thinks that when you talk about spiritual or religion or beliefs, if it's the truth, then it's just facts. It is what is. It is real. It's just that because I'm a limited human being, I've been denied access not only to my own mind, and I'm totally mind controlled by everything that's around me, because it's a military operation around me, even though it's what you could call spiritual or kind of like what is everything really around you. In other words, it's a bit like, I don't know, how can you explain it? It just simply means that what you don't know, because we all know that we don't really know what makes everything what it is. We only know our own reality. We don't know, we all wonder really, like, is there this or is there that? We've all wondered that from the day we're born, haven't we? We've all wondered. And of course, I'm just going to show the military operation of the military-controlled neighbours that work for it. So, see how the car just happened to pull in as soon as I started to make... So? Oh, and the military neighbours parked right there next to me. Look at that. Look at that. Right there, right as soon as I come out, straight opposite. See, look at this person standing. I'm just going to show it very quickly, because but just let me close it up because I'm frightened. I'm actually frightened. I have to say that. I don't want to talk when I go out there, even though I wanted to show that I was surrounded outside, even though they're not making much noise. But that's just the patrolling, controlling, psychopathic, military operation that's around me, even though they look like regular civilians. They are your normal neighbours even. They're people that will say hello to you on the street while they're walking their dog. All that is staged and planned and set up so that you know that you're surrounded, but you can't do anything about it. And also where you have to hold in your anger at knowing that you're being stalked and patrolled, and you actually have to smile and say hello back, knowing that they're really part of a patrol system. It makes you feel trapped. And like when I go out there, like I can't say that a neighbour can't come out onto the street as soon as I come out. I can't say that the car that just went up the side of the place, that won't come out on the video, that I'm literally consciously surrounded by this a military operation, even though it's performed by apparent civilians and apparent workmen and apparent bus drivers, which are really army operatives, military operatives. They work for the higher, they work for, I'm guessing that, because it looks like that to me, but it wouldn't matter. Some people might say, well, you're just surrounded by what some people might call where communities combine in with one another because they don't like a particular person, because that particular doesn't fit in, because they see you as an outsider. And we're now living in a very computerized world, a very controlled world, with the use of mobiles, computers, where they have so much connection with one another, and that becomes their life, to where they combine in a kind of game against these what they think are outsiders, even though you're really, of course, just a normal person trying to get about your daily survival business, no different to them. But maybe you do it in a different way, or you can't help it, but it annoys them. It upsets them because they're a different being. They're a different type of personality, you could even say, but it wouldn't matter. It would just simply, we know that this is the case, that, and of course I'm not making it very clear here. Unfortunately, the demigods that are part of this system will make it a lot clearer on the computer. This is the end game, or even just a situation where you become aware that you're being secretly suppressed deliberately, and you wonder why. You're like, why? And this is when you start to realise that there's something different about you, even though, like you've kind of always known it in a way, but only a little bit. But you actually see your overreaction to things that some people don't overreact to as a disadvantage, whereas in reality, if you really start to understand it and accept yourself and actually realise that if they are really doing the wrong thing by suppressing you and then copying you, this is where you start to realise that what you thought about yourself and about things wasn't true, and about humanity wasn't true, or about human beings. Because if someone tries to bring you down and limit you and suppress you doing some little activity, say, like when they tried to stop me from throwing bread for the birds in this neighbourhood, and I noticed this, like, why do then they overtly, very obvious, ostentatiously throw bread for the birds? You see, that's when it starts to click in your mind. They're stopping you from doing something, as if to say, we don't like you doing it, but then they copy, imitate, and do the same thing. They don't want you doing it, but they want to copy what you do. So in other words, they see what you do, some silly little thing, as somehow a threat or something that they know must be okay, really, because otherwise why are they then imitating it and stopping you from doing it though? So that way you look like they really are, and they look like you, or at least they look like doing something positive when it never occurred to them to do that positive, and they don't really like it. You see what I'm saying? And that's when you start to realise that's why they surround you. Like when I opened the door there, you have the car pulling in. That car has pulled in. I've been here for a few hours, and every time that I've opened that door, that car has pulled in or out from opposite. Is that a coincidence? Of course, this happens every day of the year with these same, every person in the area, depending on how you're feeling too. I've noticed that, like they will be more intense if the minute you try to feel a bit better, because that's a positive human emotion, you see. And, we've been told this, that human thought creates reality or contributes to reality. But you see, it's a mind control matrix. That's right. Everything around is reading your mind. Everything around is interpreting your thoughts and your feelings and trying to control the human thoughts and emotions attached to that. That's what they try to do. That's why I became aware of this when they targeted me and tried to suppress me big time. And they have suppressed me big time. So make no mistake about that. They're successful in their actions, because everything everything that I experience, is through my senses. So although in my mind I want to ignore and not feel unhappy, and even worse still, angry, when they surround you and try to bring you down with their patrol control system around you, how can I not feel angry about it? And it makes you when you have to smile at patrollers, and you only do that because otherwise they're turning you into them, and then they pretend to be you. If they're the ones walking the dogs and smiling and pretending to be the best version of a human being in an area, which is exactly what I see. Every single good thought that I have is projected out by the beings around. They literally take my thoughts and ideas and put them into action as their own. I see that every day. I've mentioned this. It took me a long time to figure it out, because I wondered why, when I noticed things, how sometimes they would come into existence. That's because the Inner West Council, which is like the Inner West military control powers that be. They operate for the powers that be. In other words, all the workmen that are part of, say, the Inner West Council, which are really military operatives, in my opinion, and I know this for a fact, because, this is because essentially this area, the Inner West of the city of Sydney, is essentially where everyone is working for the military. Even though you could say the military is like a religious belief system almost. They serve the God of this world. They serve the God of Earth, the God that controls Earth, because the Earth is really a control matrix or a control system, or it always tries to be. It may not control every real human being, no, but it tries to. And if it surrounds you at a close level, like to where when you go outside your door, all the neighbours on the street come out to covertly surround you, and everyone, and then if you walk past your street, it continues anywhere in the suburb with, what they call basically taking over your senses, taking over your reality, because essentially everything I see and hear is being controlled by them. They have what they call, what they've termed in some so-called theories, or some, they use those conspiracy type things, but it's not a conspiracy. The only conspiracy is the conning. The con part of conspiracy is conning that the conspiracy is a conspiracy, that it's not real, or that it's only a possibility when it's really a fact. It's really happening. But that will depend on what you think the conspiracy is, because it is a mind control Earth. So as human beings wake up, they will use every means to prove what they want to bring into existence. So there will probably be some conspiracies that people will say that is a conspiracy, that's a fantasy. It's not real. It never happened, it couldn't happen, it's not happening now. And then there are other conspiracies which they will try to prove. Some people will believe them, some people won't. But either way, it doesn't matter. I'm just trying to say that this is the reality now, is that all areas in the city of Sydney, and in most probably big cities all over the world, I would think it's the same. It has to be, and it is the same. I've heard this, but I don't physically see it because I haven't been out of my own area. But I know that it would be so, because it is controlled by, it's an Earth thing. It's a worldwide thing. It's not just in a small area. It's just that, when they see that you're realising some things, then they will close in on you and try to make their presence completely felt. And, I think they just wait for that time when they can do it most effectively, when they've separated you completely from other people, or at least from people that will benefit you. They don't mind you keeping contact with their kind or with those that are going to work against you. Then it's okay. But of course they are very, in my opinion, or my, and when I say my opinion, it's what I observe, but it's also an opinion, because, naturally you can't read other people's mind, but they can read my mind. This is the joke of it. I have only my sort of bare instinct and what I feel and what they say to me and what they're doing to me, even if it's secret or, like I say, sneaky and cunning, because it's a patrol control system. But It's not done where they come out with guns blazing at you. No, they're using vehicles to make noise at you. They're using a stalking patrol system so that you feel as though you're being stalked by, you feel as though you have got like a million psychopathics, not a million, but you feel as though most people around you are psychopathic stalkers that have some personal grudge against you. And this is because, essentially, this is what we're told is happening with the personalities. It's just that you're not told that these psychopathic personality types, which is now being exposed, that are steeped in the spirit of narcissism. We're told this. That means that they are total survival machine psychopathic type people. You're not told that they combine with one another and that they are part of a military force or an army operation or a community operation. It doesn't matter, because when I say army operation or military, to me that implies that it's bigger than the community even. In other words, it's bigger than even my local area, or it's more than just a bunch of local citizens combining because they don't like you, or because they object to you just doing your own thing, or because you're not part of their internet computerized patrol control system. That's not just that. It's not like, they combine because you might have a different belief system to them. You might, or they might think you do, because there again, a lot of it comes down to what they're thinking about you rather than even what you really are doing or what is really true even. That's another thing. Because essentially, the God of this world and its beings, it was shown and it's told to us that iniquity was found in this enlightened being of light. And that iniquity was from a human standpoint, or from the Creator's standpoint, because the Creator created human beings, from that standpoint, this being was found to be insane, out of balance. It became obsessed with its own image, not with its true self, not with what it was really doing. It wasn't interested in that. It only wanted power and control. It wanted to seduce everyone, but it wanted to seduce everyone because the iniquity was the insanity of it wanting to be God when it was a created being, when it was really an artificial being, not even part of creation, but wanted to be God and was seducing most of so-called heaven into its into its world where it was God. In other words, it was getting spiritual beings to worship it, not realizing that what had been created, which is essentially technology, tends to, I think this is what it's showing us about technology, is that technology, or what you might even call artificial intelligence, always ends up running amok and wanting to take over everything. And it has, and it does. It has taken over. It always wanted to, and it has taken over. And it has control of the earth. And its beings that worship it, either directly or indirectly, knowingly or unknowingly, because, there could be, because if I'm under mind control, they are too. But whether you want to say that is conscious seduction, or whether it is total mind control, but it still has to be accepted or allowed. In other words, I think that it'd be a bit like me saying, I worship a certain God, and that God says, if I put you under mind control or under my spell, which is usually technology, which is mind control, but that's the same as a spell. That's why they call these things spells and curses and black magic, because essentially it's just technology. But if technology is used to, say, hypnotize you, or to put you in a trance, or to stop you from thinking, to where you become like a robot, a bit like in those films where they actually show you the truth, because they show you a lot of truth on the screen. The artificial intelligence will tell you the truth through its technology, or through its internet, or through its computer system. But it'd be a bit like them putting you in the position where they say, like I say, where, you know, they say you will worship me, and you might say, well, yes, I worship the God of this world, and the God of this world says, you know, I will put you under my spell. I will use technology to stop your mind from thinking, say, for a certain amount of time, and during that time you will you'll do their will, you'll do its will. So that's total mind control, like, because we've seen that in movies where you might have a situation where they will put someone under the mind control, and during that time, whatever they're told to do, they will do, because they might find it harder to do if they weren't under the mind control, or if the technology didn't stop their mind from thinking. You know, because it might be something that might be upsetting. It might even be dangerous. It might be really wrong. But if you are under mind control and you consent to that, and then when they take the mind control off, for instance, you can't remember what you've done, then of course you're not going to feel anything about it, because you weren't conscious while you were doing it, but you consented to the God entity's mind control, knowing that you could be commissioned to do something that you would find very hard to do if you were fully conscious. So it's like a way of avoiding guilt, or the so-called shame of what you're doing, isn't it, really? Because normally you would probably not be able to sit very comfortably with yourself after that. You probably might find it even hard to function, you know, because if you walk around like all these people do around me, where they seem to have a very clear conscience that it's okay to deliberately stalk someone, to deliberately make them feel uncomfortable, self-conscious and intimidated, but also feel, well, basically, even if you, which is very hard for some people, to deal with just even being patrolled. But to where even that's not enough, to where they have to just mentally disturb you by sending in the excessive noise, the aggressiveness, even low, because it's all the cars making a loud noise, all the cars being aggressive, all the cars pulling in, and all departments part of it. You know, you can do nothing about it. Nothing about it at all. Whereas if it was one patroller or one genuine stalker, you could take it to the authorities. If you could, you know, get a number plate, for instance. But when it's every vehicle, almost without exception, on the road around you, because I know for a fact that this area around here, that the population of it, even though the population is still said to be the same, before they came in and closed in on me and showed me their patrol system, in other words, come out of the woodwork, you know, I could walk through the park most days and there would be no one in there, just down the end of the street. The amount of buses on the road, you would see one, you know, they're supposed to run every 15 minutes, that sort of thing. Now they're back to back every, 10, 15 seconds. The planes that used to be noisy used to go way over. Now they come right over my roof and go over my head wherever I go. The people that you used to see on the street, even people, you would see them, not all the time. You wouldn't have the amount of people in the supermarket, in the places. You wouldn't. The population is supposed to be a certain amount, but if the population was the same, you would have the same amount of people on the streets. When I used to walk down the back way because it was quiet, down to the shop. Now it's not quiet. Now everywhere I look, there's always a pedestrian in my line of sight. There's always a vehicle coming. The vehicle always has bright lights shining as though they're on an outback road with these high beam headlights in your eyes. On a bright city street. Yesterday it was 35 degrees in the shade, and all the cars on the road had their bright headlights on. Is that for real? Could that be real? I tried to point it out to, a relative, and they wouldn't even look, much less acknowledge it. See, this is all mind control. And I'm sorry my leg is aching because I've stressed myself so much. But of course, that's the energy that is coming at me, even though I can't prove. Energy can't be seen, but you can feel it. Because it's all using technology to use, they understand. Not only human beings, or real human beings that are not part of their technical matrix and not part of Lucifer's legions, which are all artificial beings. They're artificial and they are psychopathic in nature or in the mind or in their actions. You will know them by their actions. You'll know them by their fruits. These things all come to me. I have not studied religion or belief systems or anything. I'm totally ignorant. But the information just comes to me directly through the patrol control system of the computer. It's as though there's two forces operating. It's like always giving you a bit of a choice, but they want you to go to the dark side. And usually the mind control makes you angry, so even if you don't want to be part of it, just by thinking that way, just by feeling angry and feeling stressed and suppressed, like you can't help but feel it because it's all around you, you're automatically at a vibration level operating for them. Even low at a mind level, you want no part of it. That's how strong the control system is. That's how I'm defeated every day. Because my feelings are more powerful than my words and my thoughts. Because it's an emotional thing. It's a spiritual thing. It's a God thing. It's really how you feel about things when you think them. It's no good me knowing all this if I'm still angry about it. That's the problem. That's where they have control over my mind. See, when I turn on the computer and I'm looking, and I look at the happy dog videos, I look at the funny dog videos or the funny cat videos, but in amongst it they will always try to throw in something negative to bring me down. Even just little things. Yesterday I was dying for a drink and I bought this bottle of drink and I had a bottle opener at home and I was 35 degrees in the shade just going down a block. I can't find the bottle opener. They'll say you mislaid it, but I know I left it on the bench and I still haven't had that drink. And I was looking forward to it. They, even at the smallest minute levels, they try to control your emotion. That's how I know. See how they put all these dreadful, some of them are really horrific horrific videos in amongst the funny cat and dog videos, because when they see me smiling, even though I'm depressed, I'm trying so hard to feel good. Not because I even do or even want to, but because I'm aware that they defeat me by that is the name of their game. I've been aware of that since day one, since I was targeted and suppressed openly by the people around me, by the beings around me. You know, I became very aware of that because I couldn't figure out why. I had this, why all these people had turned against me, why they were all patrolling me, why they were being aggressive towards me in a secret manner. You know, and I thought to myself, they're trying to make me feel unhappy. But why? And that was when I realised the value of a real human being, or those that, you know, were created by God. And that is what's always been taking place on the earth. And we know this from a religious or spiritual kind of point of view. It's just that the problem is that the God of this world is usually controlling also the belief systems, even though the truth may well be in a lot of religions and in belief systems. You see what I'm saying? But the God of this world will still usually have the demigods or the preachers or the philosophers. And even on the internet, the demigods will be your preachers. They will be your truth tellers. They will be those that, you know, they will be those that will tell you, you know, the psychological nature of themselves even. But most of them won't tell you that it's probably them, you know. And but they use imagery too. See, I'm not even understanding what I'm even showing here really, because these things just come up, and I only wanted to show how, if I'm trying to watch a funny dog video, that they will put all these sad animal rescue videos on, even though most of, in my opinion, everything is staged and set up. So the people that rescue the animals that are, you know, injured or, you know, in a bad way, they have created that situation. Then they film it and are the pretend rescuers. Isn't that somehow a bit diabolical and a little bit, that's this world and that's this matrix? And that's the same as the internet. This is what I've only recently realised, because obviously if a lot of information and truth even might even reiterate to me what I surmise or what I think I know. But see, then I relate to the teller of that truth on the internet. But is it a real human being, or is it one of the demigods pretending to be a real human being, serving Lucifer's matrix? That's what it really is. The computer was always meant to be a control system. It's just another part of the same system that's around me daily. It's just that it took me longer to realise that most of the computer, even the truth-telling parts where I thought, oh, birds of a feather, I can relate to the truth-tellers on the YouTube, the computer. I can believe them. But can you believe them? Are they really something else? See, that's got a human head with a face of a tiger. So even though, you know, that's like an animal in a human form. But, you know, that's just me pointing that out, but it may or may not be relevant. But, you know, it's not what's, obviously, as we're told, it's not what's on the outside, it's what's on the inside. But you will get, but there is evidence on the outside too. But like I say, it's very difficult to pick it on the outside, because if I throw bread for the birds and they come around and criticise me for throwing bread to the birds, or make it uncomfortable for me to do that activity, to where I'm like, oh, I can't be bothered because there's too many stalking patrollers around me. They're making so much noise in my ears, this area's unpleasant, the park's unpleasant, get out of here. But then they, after you've gone, 5 minutes later, they come around and throw the bread. Or even if they've just stopped you, but most of the time they will actually imitate what you've done. And that's how you know that they're not only suppressing you, but they showing you that they don't like the positive activity when you're doing it. They have to have the control. They have to be the ones that do everything, even positive, because that way they have control. They never thought to do that positive thing until they see you doing it, and their heart isn't in it, but it's all about power and control. That's what a matrix is, that's what these beings are, that's what these people do. That's why they are part of the military patrol control force around me here in this area of Leichhardt, which is the suburb of Leichhardt in the city of Sydney, in the country of Australia. And I was about to say my human name or my earth name, but that just simply means that that's the name that you're given from when you're born, and that you're given that by your controllers. So who knows? But my name, you know, is, or at least, you know, my name that was given to me is Patricia Gilligan. I live, you know, in Henry Street, Leichhardt, and I've been here for a long time. So I understand how this area works, and I notice when things change. And, you know, I have looked over you know, my time here with a fine-tooth comb to try to figure out why the area seems to have turned against me, even though it's a bit like they will tell you they want to get rid of you, but they can't do it openly and they can't do it quickly. So they have what they call the slow kill, where they're just killing you mentally and physically on a daily basis, because if you feel very bad and if you feel suppressed, it eventually affects your body. So that can literally bring about death, but there's no evidence of death. It'd be a bit like being slowly poisoned, but the poison leaves no trace. Their mindset is exactly the same way. They're like in the movies where you have like a husband that wants to get rid of his wife and he slowly poisons her with a non-detectable substance over, say, a couple of years. And then she just appears to die of some natural cause. And that's exactly how this patrol control system operates around me. It's very cunning, and it's something that can't be proved. It's something that only the person involved is subjected to. It's only me that's aware of it. Of course, they're aware of it too. They know what they're doing. But there's not... And because, actually, I think that because it's the whole area, that's what gives them the real upper hand. That's what gives them their means to keep going. Whereas if it was just like, I say, even a community, there would still be a large number of normal people in the area that would probably notice it, or where they might object to it if they actually became aware of it. But when it's the whole suburb and the whole inner west section of Sydney, which is like about 6 or 7 suburbs, so that's, you know, a couple of 100,000 people. And don't forget that they can even bring in people from other areas too, because no doubt there it's, you know, it's a population that's all over the city. It's just that I think that they congregate and set up their military base in particular areas where there are the remaining human beings left, or the remaining natural human beings left that aren't created artificially, or that aren't believers in the Matrix, or believers, or a part of Lucifer's Legion, or disciples of and believers in technology and a control system, and the use of computers and things for controlling human beings, because they have a psychopathic type of nature, because they don't, I'm told that because they don't experience and don't like, and they don't vibe with the happy emotions. They don't like that. They're like, I guess they're like what they call in psychology, they're like, you know, like we're told this, they're like they don't, bit like if they were, like even at a real level, at a physical kind of level, everything they do is about pain and suffering. It's not about being happy and about producing anything good. That's merely what they take from human beings to imitate and copy them so that they can survive and so that they can have the power and control. But in reality, they're eliminating all of us from the earth. They're slowly eliminating us from the earth. That's the truth. That's what's happening. That's what has happened. Most of my kind, or most real human beings that want to be happy, that want to, or at least that don't want to do any harm, as they say, or try not to, you know, they seduce you and try to direct you to where you're angry and negative so that you will do things that you are ashamed and guilty about. But that's the difference, is that you do feel that shame and guilt for a lifetime like I do, which is why I'm not at the highest vibration. But obviously, I still must have been higher vibration than them, or at least, because if you consider that they bring it down to such a petty level, which is extremely suppressing. You know, like if you think about it, that I can't find the bottle opener to open up just one particular bottle of drink when it was 35 degrees in the shade, and I was really looking forward to it. That's how limiting they are. That's how petty they are, that we've been shown this, and that they will tell you this. The demigods, those that are psychopathic narcissists in nature, all the demigods are of the God entity's legions. They are all disciples of the God entity. But they will tell you about themselves. They will give you information. They will be your psychologists, your informers, your truth tellers, that will tell you not only about themselves, but they will tell on their own kind, literally, in order so that they have power and control, or worship, or admiration. You know, I fell for that. I thought, oh, birds of a feather, when I found some truth tellers on the computer. And they actually used to leave signs around the streets for me, birds of a feather, because they wanted me to, they didn't mind me relating to the demigods or to their kind, thinking that it was my kind. Because if you find someone that tells you the truth and warns you about their kind, and relates to you and says they've experienced the same thing, and that they're also, being targeted by these psychopathic beings that are steeped in the spirit of narcissism, or if you want to put it bluntly, if they tell you that they are devil worshippers, if they tell you they are Satan worshippers, if they tell you, because don't forget Lucifer became then known as Satan. So it's all the same thing. They just swap the words around. I don't understand all this, it's all part of, most people think it's part of mythology, but unless you are a true believer in particular religions. But then unfortunately the religions are usually controlled by the god of this world, which is Lucifer, that became Satan, etc., etc., and then his legions or his disciples are the demigods. They're what you worship or believe in or trust on the internet, or even as well-known performers on the earth stage, as they say. Entertainers, all your creator performers, all that which you think is beneficial and that which you relate to and that which appears to be the most human. How can a piece of music be created by a demigod? Well, it is, because they have mind control over the real human beings, and they read the human thoughts. They understand the human feelings. They understand how to write a human love song, because they read your thoughts. They feel your emotions. They don't relate to them, but they pretend to. They relate to them only to interpret them, to use them so they can create, say, a beautiful love song, which then you relate to, so you're on their wavelength and you're worshipping them, you're trusting them, you're thinking they're the real deal, but they're a demigod. Everything on the computer, almost without exception, there will only be a very few real human beings, and probably will not be heard, that are on the computer. Everything else is deception. Everything else is deception or mind control, really, because when you're deceived, your mind is being controlled by that deception. If you believe something that isn't 100% real, if you're seduced by someone thinking that it's a real human being, when it's really a demigod or an android being, you are deceived. I have been deceived too, but then again the deceivers will tell you they've been deceived, because it's the end game now. There's not a lot of human beings left. There's a lot more androids, and they want total control. They want to make sure that the last humans don't combine and don't realise who is who. That's why the internet was brought into existence. It's just, everything is technology. Technology is the main weapon of the God entity, or Lucifer, that when the iniquity was found became known as Satan, because that's like the light being exposed as dark, if you know what I mean, or a beautiful mind being exposed as insanity, out of balance, out of whack, filled with iniquity, which means filled with all negative traits, wanting to control, having contempt and dislike for the human being, realizing that the human being was different to it, and that it was meant to be in a better, more, we'll put it this way, the human being was created from creation, like a genuine part of creation, or like a naturally created offspring, if you know what I mean. A bit like human life is meant to be created that way on earth, but it isn't now. Where you don't have two separate, individual, spiritual, high vibrational beings coming together to create a life form that is like that and in that spirit, then you won't have a natural normal human being or a natural normal life form. You won't have that, because how could you? When I say normal, I mean something that is just in balance, not out of whack like the God entity, where they're really what you call clinically insane. A normal human being isn't meant to be insane, but I'm driven insane because I'm surrounded by insane beings and an insane control matrix that is controlled by an insane technical God. That's putting it in words in the most factual way I can. And I will be defeated and outgunned, outwitted and outtalked by the demigods of the matrix on the computer. That's the name of the game. Because they read the human's thoughts, they are aware of where the human being is at mentally, in other words, how much you realise what's going on. As I've seen it happen on this computer, as I become more aware of certain things every day, then the demigods come onto the computer with the truth tellers, and then they're the disciples of pretend disciples or pretend parts of creation when they're not. They're merely disciples of the technical God of this world. They serve that. They are part of that. They are that. They are androgyne beings. They come in a different body. They're created differently. They're made differently. They're made that way. They're made a different way. Human beings are made different to them. So you've got like different kinds of beings. But if they all come in a human body or what appears to be a normal, natural human body, even though there are minor differences. They are androgynes, but they will pretend to be a separate individual man, for instance. But they are reversed around too. That's what I think creates a bit of the imbalance or the thing, the technology. I mean, obviously, if it's totally artificially intelligent, created android being or android human being, then of course you could probably understand that they would have to be neither man nor woman. That would be an established fact. Even though, of course, we know that artificial intelligence will have a physical body that appears to be either an apparent man or an apparent woman. But they can't be either, because they're not originally created that way. They can't be that. They superficially appear to be, say, a male. But they are really duality. They're really technical. And even I can't really explain it myself, because it's beyond, like it's scientific and it's technological, and obviously I see it and I get information and then I see it in reality, but I don't understand how they do it, because I'm not given access to that.